One of the properties in my husband's IRA, we bought for about $100,000 and probably about 15 years ago. And today it's worth probably $600,000 to $700,000. I mean, we got it for a great deal, but even if we would have bought it for $150,000 and now it's worth $600,000, no one's feeling sorry for me if I tell them that I overpaid because I had the luxury of holding on to it long enough. If you look at how Warren Buffett buys and he wants to stick in there forever because he wants to watch that value go and grow. And with a self-directed IRA, some of those mistakes can kind of be swept under just by holding it long enough.
Welcome everyone to the Directed IRA Podcast. This is Matt Sorensen. I've got a special episode for you. I have got Shenoah Grove from the Texas REIAs. Shenoah spoke at our last Alternative Asset Summit. I've actually been to her house and some of the events they've done with the Texas REIA, which was incredible. And I wanted to have her on today to hit a really important topic. We did a survey from over 1,000 Directed IRA customers, answered this survey, and we asked an important question. We asked, what is the number one thing holding you back from having success with your self-directed IRA? And Shenoah, you'll probably be surprised by this, but I wanted you to come on to help solve this for people. Here was the question. Their number one thing holding them back from having success with a self-directed IRA was not finding deals.
Marketing is key to everything.
Yeah, they want to know, how do I find deals? How do I connect with the right people? Where should I be going? I think a lot of people are used to their IRA or 401k, and what's the deal? Oh, I just type in a ticker symbol on my computer. That's my deal, right? But when you're self-directing, these aren't like, investments sitting on the shelf. You just check out of the checkout line, or you type into a computer. So now, real estate being the number one asset people typically invest in with a self-directed IRA, I wanted to bring you on to talk about this. So what do you think about that, first of all? Does that surprise you?
I'll be honest, it does not surprise me. It seems like it's one of the things that most people are most intimidated about or most afraid about. And a lot of the people who are investing with a self-directed IRA, listen, they're subject matter experts in what they spent, 20 years at being in a cubicle, and now they're out of the cubicle and now they're into the game, and they don't know, they had a company that was bringing in marketing that would allow them to get paid, right? They weren't maybe interfacing as much with the marketing side of the business, but marketing is everything in any business. We say you should always be spending about 80% of your time doing the marketing, because if you don't have marketing, you don't have leads, you don't have deals, you're not going to be able to invest in your directed IRA or your cash or anything else. So as part of Texas REIAs, we are Texas's largest association of real estate investor groups. And man, we teach about marketing all the time. In fact, we do a 3-day class, and most of that class is about marketing. And what I've found is, and this is a quote that I love from Alex Hormozy from acquisition.com. Some of you guys may have heard of him, but he says, listen, there are no silver bullets, but there are a lot of golden BBs. And when it comes to marketing, right, there's not just one place to go, right? So you talked about a ticker, some people who are getting started investing talk about the MLS. Well, MLS is where you want to go if you want a really bad deal. Yeah, that's true. But if you want good deals, sometimes you have to use some of those golden BBs, of which we've identified over 65 of them. And also, some people just have the X factor of just who they talk to and how they talk to them and how they are able to, transform conversations into deals. But for me, what I found, for those who want to get deals quickly, and sometimes this is going to be super uncomfortable for the person who has been, again, in the cubicle or working in an office environment, talking to people that are very left brain analytical, data driven, right? Sometimes when you're talking to people you're buying houses from, some of that data drivenness is not there. In fact, it's less logic and more emotion. And it's hard for a lot of people who are coming from the corporate space to realize that you use logic as a tool, but you don't use logic as a rule when you're working with people who maybe are in difficult situations. For me, I like to make a dollar holler, and the best way to make a dollar holler is to do marketing that gets to multiple people and really resonates. So one of the things that I've spent a long time start studying and learning. And listen, I've been investing for over 21 years, but I'm still studying and learning from some of the best minds out there. So we use some of the negotiation. So I'm kind of jumping from marketing negotiation, but some of the negotiation tactics and strategies of Chris Voss, Phil Jones, and Chase Hughes. So Chase Hughes is someone who teaches backwards hat wearing frat boys how to be the next Jason Bourne. So it's part about the marketing, but once you get that lead, it is whether or not you can convert that lead. So some of the top marketing strategies that I see, number one shopping list, the foreclosure list, the pre-foreclosure list. Here in Texas, where I do most of my investing, you got 21 days between the notice of acceleration to the day that it goes to foreclosure. Now, if you want to get ahead of that, and most investors who are just getting started are not aware of this strategy, but it's something that we call a notice of a substitute trustee. So notice of a substitute trustee is, and I'm going to get a little technical here, when you buy a house and you get a mortgage from Wells Fargo, Chase, Bank of America, you sign a promissory note to them, and you also sign a deed of trust if you're in a deed of trust state like Texas. When in that deed of trust, there's a trustee listed there, and that trustee is an attorney, and the attorney is the one who is in charge.
I've done this before, by the way.
Yeah.
I've gone to the courthouse steps and auctioned off people's houses. Okay,
Yeah,
so keep
so
going.
you
This is a
could-
great tip because I see exactly where you're going, which is getting ahead of everyone else in terms of the
100%.
lead. So I love this. Keep going and share this tip. I'm going to
Yeah,
back up here in a
so
second, but
on a
love
notice of
this.
substitute trustee, what that looks like is the bank will assign, a different attorney than the attorney that was listed in the original deed of trust. And the only reason why they would do a notice of substitute trustee is because the owner of that property is behind on their payments. Okay. And the interesting thing about the notice of substitute trustee is, unlike the notice of acceleration of sale that comes out 21 days before, typically the notice of substitute trustee comes out 22 days before, 25 days before, 30 days before, 60 days before, and it's coming out every single day, versus the notice of acceleration, that foreclosure notice, is usually coming out day 21 or day 22 or day 23. They just mash them all in to that time frame to give the owner enough time to recoup it, and then also so that the bank doesn't have to deal with paying, attorneys, right?
Yeah.
So this is basically the pre-foreclosure list, and this should be your shopping list. But it also has to be for the folks who are not afraid to have conversations with owners and not afraid to, and really, it truly just accelerates your learning curve. So the sooner you decide to jump in and kind of get uncomfortable, the faster you'll turn to being comfortable. I will say, so those are my two favorite, and I'll let you
let me pause for a second, because I want to back up even for a second. So Shenoah went right into it about like basically finding a good deal. And I just want to pause for a second, because a lot of people who are new to self-directing and they answer that question that we have is like, I don't know how to find a good deal. Well, what makes a good deal? Well, you got to buy right. You make money in real estate when you buy. You realize it when you sell. Or maybe you're cash flowing the property and making time as you're holding it as an asset. But you really make money on the buy. So you got to make sure you're buying right. And what Shenoah is talking about is the strategy of buying a property not at retail prices on the MLS. Don't just go buy and pay retail. Let's get the wholesale. Let's get the discounted price. So I have instant equity when I own that investment. Well, how do you do that? You look for people in distress. How are people in distress? They're not making their mortgage payments. They're about to get foreclosed on. How do I know who those people are? Well, there's foreclosure notices that go out there and foreclosure lists that get sold. But how do I know before all those people? Because those people are already getting called. Check the substitution of trustee. I've never even thought of that. That's such a great idea.
Yeah,
Because
and that's a filed notice.
as a lawyer in Utah, I would get substituted in. And what would happen, I did this for a little bit, wasn't my favorite job, but as a lawyer, but I did it for back in this is like 2008. And so, but they would substitute us in, me or our law firm. And they did that because they're like, all right, here's the 100 clients in this county that haven't paid their mortgage, or the borrowers, and they're going over here, and we don't want to track them anymore. They're now over in collection lawyer land and real estate lawyer that's going to go sell it on the courthouse steps in a couple months. And so that's a great way to get ahead of that and find those people that are in a distressed situation, because those are the people where you can negotiate a good deal to then buy at a discounted price, have instant equity and value in your retirement account. So I just want to unpack that for a second.
Yeah.
And here's something that I want to point out too, of what my piece of advice would be if people with the answer to that survey, or you're feeling that question, I want to make sure I'm finding good deals, is we go to real estate events a lot as a company at Directed IRA. Why do I go to real estate events? Was I excited to go to the Texas REIA event that we went to with Shenoah and Phil? Like, this was like 6 months ago or when we met. Because I know those people know real estate. I don't have to sell them or teach them about real estate. I just need to say, do you know you could use your IRA to do this? And they're like, oh my gosh, I love real estate. I've always been good at real estate. I make money in real estate. I don't know stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. You're telling me that this old employer 401k, this old IRA I have that I've been buying stocks or an ETF, or maybe I bought NVIDIA stock and it's gone down, whatever, like whatever it is. Like, you're telling me I could buy real estate with that, which I know at and I'm good at? Yeah. And so we like going to those real estate events as a company because we know people understand that asset and how to make money on it. If there's a place like Texas REIA, they're like learning how to do that, or they have a whole network of people that are doing deals all the time. Okay. So thanks for letting me unpack that, but I wrote that down because I'm going to make a couple notes just myself. Pre-foreclosure list, but going a step deeper to the notice of the substitute of trustee.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you start talking about negotiation, though, here for a second, about being able to negotiate when you find that deal, for example. So I stopped you there for a second because I want to interject, but let me turn it back to you, Shenoah, because I want to just learn more.
So those are my favorite too, especially if you're just getting started, and especially if you're willing to, kind of get your hands a little dirty from the standpoint of have those interactions with the seller. If you're not going to get your hands dirty, then you're going to be looking best case, a wholesaler, worst case, maybe buying off the MLS. Now, a lot of people that I've seen with self-directed IRAs who are deep subject matter experts in what they went to school in or what they've been in their job in corporate America for, 5, 10, 20, 30 plus years is sometimes they just want to buy deals from other people. And, that's kind of the magic of, you and I doing things together, right?
Yeah.
So you have and part of me thinks you have the haves and I have the wants. And the other part of me thinks I have the, it's vice versa, because you have the money, right? My people have the deals. So, they have each other's haves and wants, right? Which is a beautiful combination when you're looking for those types of opportunities. So what I will say is, if you are buying from a wholesaler, which is a way that a lot of brand new investors get started, I just want to make sure that you guys are playing it safe with the wholesalers, because a lot of times with wholesalers, there's a conflict of interest. And Matt, being an attorney, you know that typically when there's a conflict of interest, you have to excuse yourself, or at least notate that and have make people aware of that, right? So when I think of a wholesaler's conflict of interest, it is that you, as the buyer, you're only buying if you're believing all of the stuff that they're selling. And they're incentivized to maybe tell you half truths or partial, something like that. So always inspect what you expect. Inspect what you expect. So you need to inspect that the ARV, the after repair value, what that property will likely sell on the MLS for when you're done. You have to inspect that, right? Third party objective opinion to make sure that that is truly the value of that property. Because I've seen people cherry pick comps from far away, or comps that just don't make sense for that property. The other thing that you have to, again, inspect what you expect is the renovation budget that will get that super high ARV that wholesaler is telling you. So a lot of times a wholesaler will give you correct information. This high ARV is possible, but sometimes they'll tell you that they'll give you repairs that are here. These repairs may be what we call make-ready repairs, perfect for a rental property, not perfect for when you're reselling at that highest ARV. So inspect those two things, because if those two things are right, you may be on a slow road of losing money. And I can't tell you how many times as a coach and as a mentor that I have told brand new investors, hey, that $5,000, $10,000 non-refundable deposit that you gave that wholesaler, hey, listen, you're going to actually lose less money if you just walk away from it right now and not do the deal than what you'll make if you take that deal to the finish line and ultimately sell it. welcome to real estate investing.
Yeah.
That's heartbreaking, right? That's a heartbreaking thing to say to someone, but it's something that happens all the
Yeah.
time. So you have to take some personal responsibility. Warren Buffett's number one rule of investing, don't lose money. Warren Buffett's number two rule of investing, never forget rule number one. So
Yeah.
you have to be aware of those conflicts of interest. Even when, Matt, as an attorney, he has to disclose that. There is no requirement of disclosure if you are a wholesaler. And by the way, new investors are not a protected class of people. So you have to do your own analysis and due diligence, or partner with people who have. And I always say, if you want some of the best free coaching and free advice that you'll ever get as a real estate investor, is even if you have a ton of money in your self-directed IRA, take your deal, and I'm just going to use this term super loosely here, to a hard money lender. And that hard money lender is going to give you some of the best free coaching and advice that you've ever received, because they don't want to lose money, and they typically don't want you to lose money. So something to consider as you're looking at working with wholesalers, which a lot of people, as they're getting started, they do until they realize, wow, I paid that wholesaler $10,000 or $20,000. How many deals could I have gotten myself had I invested in my own marketing, right? Now, and marketing is scary at the beginning. So you need people to tell you, hey, not just here's one silver bullet, but here are all the golden BBs that are working right now in today's market. And the market is always changing there.
Yeah. Let me say on this, so it's like you could be, I want to break it down for people they understand, because it's a little different for everybody. You could be a hustler type person, and you could be like, you know what? I've got time. I want to go hustle and find deals. I like doing that. I'm a sales type person. I'm going to go chase that pre-foreclosure list. I'm going to go chase the substitution of trustee list. I'm going to go chase down those deals because I want to find deeply discounted buys. You could be like, that scares the hell out of me. I don't want to do that. And so you say, so I'm going to buy from wholesalers. Well, a wholesaler is just another real estate investor that's already done the work and found the deal, and they're going to charge you more. So if they found a property and they got it under contract for $300,000, they might be selling it to you for $330 because they think if you put $100,000 into it, it's worth $450 or $500 or whatever, it is. And say, or they could even be rental ready immediately, depends on the deal, but they're making money there. And so when you're talking about this, it's like this conflict of interest, I want to make sure people understand is like, they're selling you the property. They're the seller making money if you pay more. So understand that when you're buying from them, it's just like buying from anybody. They're trying to sell you at the highest price possible, as they should.
And they take the risk-free profit and they give you the risk-full profit.
Yes.
Right. So
yes,
just make
great.
sure listen, in life, we're all risk managers, right? In everything that we do. So we need to make sure to trust but verify. And for me, I always say, listen, if the Pope gave me change, I'd count it back. Not because I don't trust the Pope, but because the Pope makes mistakes and the Pope misremembers and the Pope forgets and the Pope sleeps and so you need to trust but verify everything, because the last it's interesting because it seems like the first mistake that people make is on the last deal that they need to make it on, which is the first deal. And you don't want to be one of those investors that says, oh, well, this is what I learned from this deal, right? Instead, like, be around people who can tell you, oh, there's a pothole over there. There's a sand trap over there. Or this person's not someone who you want to do a deal with. So just make sure to get that third party objective opinion of both values as what it will resell for, as well as values when it comes to what it's going to need to be renovated for. And here's what I'll tell you. One of the things I like about investing in a self-directed IRA is, people, you're going to be in there for a while, right? You're not going to be able to take the money out and spend it for a while for most of you. And what I will tell you is this, any mistake that you make on the buy by overpaying can be remedied through market cycles and time. Right? So you hear a lot of investors who will say, well, I'm a landlord. And then they say, well, I'm an accidental landlord. Well, how did that happen? Well, I bought a house thinking it was worth this. It was actually worth this. And I bought a house thinking the repairs were here and they were really here. And there wasn't any profit left over, right? After closing
Mm-hmm.
costs, holding costs, resale costs, et cetera. So know those numbers, but also know, specifically when it comes to an IRA, you don't usually have to rush to the finish line and force value in a 6 to 7 month period. You can hold on to it. One of the properties in my husband's IRA, we bought for about $100,000 and probably about 15 years ago. And today it's worth probably $600,000 to $700,000. And we got it for a great deal, but even if we would have bought it for 150,000 and now it's worth 600, no one's feeling sorry for me if I tell them that I overpaid because I had the luxury of holding on to it long enough. So,
Yeah.
I don't want to say you can make more mistakes in your IRA, but if you hold it long enough and, it's like, Einstein says the most powerful force in the universe, compound interest. Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett said, don't interrupt it unnecessarily. And what he
Mm-hmm.
meant by that is don't trade in and out just for the sake of action. Some of these, if you look at how Warren Buffett buys, he buys and he wants to stick in there forever because he wants to watch that value go and grow. And with
Yeah.
a self-directed IRA, some of those mistakes can kind of be swept under just by
Yeah.
holding it long enough.
Yeah, I mean, the self-directed IRA is a long-term wealth building tool, and you can't access it till you're 59 and a half, just like any retirement account. So if you're in your 40s or early 50s, you're not touching this immediately anyways, right? You're going to let this ride and grow. And that's the point. We want to get assets in our IRA that can appreciate in value. Real estate can do that. But you want to try to time the market, just like the stock market. It's difficult to time the real estate market, play the long game, but also it can create cash flow for us as we're holding that asset. And so that's what I've loved about real estate. Now, my first deal, actually, I've done some videos on this on just the very first deal I did with my IRA was I actually bought a turnkey rental from a wholesaler. Okay. This was in 2017 when I bought it. And this was in Indianapolis. A real estate broker who's a client of mine was buying his own properties in Indianapolis. And I'm like, oh, you're buying rentals in Indianapolis? Go pick me one up. And he's like, all right, I'll get you one. And so he was telling me kind of the numbers on them. And I was like, those sound like amazing deals. Well, the seller of that property was another real estate investor that bought it at foreclosure for $40K. I don't know what they put into it, but there was new carpet, paints, countertops and stuff. It was actually pretty done, renovated pretty nice. I bought it for $85. It immediately cash flowed. Okay. I held it for 6 years. It cash flowed and the rents went up. I bought it for $85. I started renting it for $950. Eventually rents were up to $1,200 a month by the time I sold it. And, but I remember when I got the loan, cause this is what I remember what you mentioned this about the hard money lender. Cause I only put 40,000 down. I got a loan for the other 45K. When I went to the lender, I went to a non-recourse lender. That's one thing you got to use. You can use a private money lender, but they just have to do what's called a non-recourse loan with an IRA. His name's Roger St. Pierre. He's does non-recourse loans out of a bank called First Western Federal Savings Bank. It's not the best marketing name for a bank, but whatever. They've been around for like 100 years. Anyways, they're a little bank. They do a lot of loans to IRAs buying real estate. And I remember what he told me when he said, "Is this a good deal?" And I said, "I think this is an incredible deal." And he's like, "Well, we'll find out." And so, because that's what he did. They appraised it. And they went and basically did like a debt service coverage ratio loan. They're like, what can this rent for? What's your cost of the debt going to be? Because that's where you can lose in real estate. I mean, you can buy right, but you really lose if you get upside down on the debt in real estate.
Yeah.
But
yes.
they don't want to lend you the money if it's a bad deal. So I remember when he came back to me, he's like, "All right, this is a good deal." I was like, "Oh, thank you." But that's a good
nice
check on that.
Blessing. It's
Yeah,
nice to have that blessing. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt like, all right, the bank's willing to go in on this deal with me, essentially. They don't want to lose their money either. And so, but I do think a lot of new people seem to forget that. They can get sold a little bit. And I think that's one of the number one mistakes some people will make is they'll get sold, like you were talking about, like this, here's the after repair value of this property. And they just are like, they've already thought they've made that money once they bought it. I'm like, yeah, you got a long ways to get there. First, you got to manage a budget on a remodel. Not easy. And it's got to be right. Second, you got to get that sales price. Also not easy. So just be careful understanding there is that conflict. It's all on you. And I like how you said it. You've got the risk. Like when you acquire that property, you've got 100% of the risk. Now, you get 100% of the reward too when you get it right. So don't forget that either. Okay, one other tip, Shenoah. I know you're busy. I appreciate you taking the time. Maybe throw one other tip for us, for anybody trying to find deals or getting started in real estate with the self-directed IRA.
I will say, being at the IRA Summit in Phoenix, there
Oh, I
were
love
a
that.
lot of there were a lot of syndicators there, right?
Yeah.
And they were looking to raise money for their deals. So I think that's another way, is to go out and learn commercial investing. Now, residential investing is kind of like, me telling you, hey, take a piece of paper, go make a paper airplane and fly it. And you're going to say, okay, yeah, you're going to go do it.
Mm-hmm.
Commercial investing is like me telling you, hey, go launch a rocket like Elon. So
Yeah.
when you're doing that, you need a couple more people around you, right, to be able to kind of help and lift you up. So if you are someone who is a real student and really wants to, dive beyond, for example, getting, two values, right? The after repair value and the repairs and how long it's going to take you to do it and that sort of thing. But if you really want to dig in, a great way to be able to dig in, and especially in your self-directed IRA, where again, you're not touching it until you're at least 59 and a half, is to invest in other people's syndications. So you can own a piece of, Matt, you got a building right behind you,
Yeah,
right?
right. Yeah, that's our
Yeah.
office building. Yeah.
Yeah. You could own a piece of Matt's office building, probably.
You could.
My
It's
guess is,
condominiumized each floor. We own some of it actually, not in our
yeah,
IRA
okay,
because we
yeah.
lease it, but yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of people, and a lot of people I work with, are buying multifamily apartment complexes. They're buying
Mm-hmm.
RV parks. They're buying self-storage. Probably one of the hotter asset classes right now, because it's kind of residential financing with commercial returns, is residential assisted living, right? And my guess is, in Arizona, you probably see a fair amount of that,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
it's a huge retirement place people want to go for retirement. So finding other people that are already investing in commercial and have had some success, and specifically what you want to look for is people who are, what we call full market cycle pros. So have made it when the market was up, have made it when the market is down. For me, I tell people, listen, I haven't had to update my resume since 2003. At this point, my resume is in some version of DOS, that even the techie people are on this call who actually know what that word
Yeah.
means.
Maybe word
Uh,
perfect or something.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like, I am committed not to going back to work for anybody else. And to be at that level of commitment, I also have to continue to be a student of the market. So when you are investing your directed IRA money into a commercial asset as a limited partner, be sure you're looking for two things, right? You're looking
Mhm.
at the horse and you're looking at the jockey, right? So you want the right horse, you want the right jockey, and it also is also the jockey or even the trainer's team, right? So like if you think of Bob
Mm.
Baffert, he's the most successful horse trainer that's ever existed, right? He's had multiple Triple Crown, wins. He sent more horses to the Triple Crown than anyone else,
Mm.
to all the Triple Crown races. So he has that experience, but it's not just him, right? It's his back office, it's his team. So don't just look for and don't have a what I'll call a concentration risk in one individual. Make sure that their team is as good as they are, because they're going to be the one that's ultimately going to be implementing for you. And then also don't be afraid to dig into their financials. And this is where you will have to do, some work. So some of, my spreadsheet folks out there, you do have to be a little bit careful from the standpoint of, I think a lot of people think, well, behold my spreadsheet, it's like the numbers say this, right? Well, garbage in, garbage stays in, garbage makes little garbage babies that infiltrate your spreadsheet and tell you to do things that maybe you should not do. So make sure that when you're working with a syndicator, GP, that they have a good track record, that they're not robbing Peter to pay Paul, that they've got, good backing. They're also SEC compliant to keep them out of trouble and make sure that nothing comes back on you either, from the standpoint of the deal maybe losing money as well. So that's another way that you can get involved in your directed IRA, to be able to invest with people with not actually, taking on. And I think a lot of people are, one of the reasons why they like to invest in the stock market is because they don't have the tenants, and they don't have the toilets, and they don't have the things that tenants put inside of toilets, right? And with investing with someone else, and it's super easy. You write a check, right? And then every month or every quarter, depending on their distribution schedule, you're building it, and you should be doubling it. Most syndications, if they're set up correctly, if their team, right? So it's not just the horse, it's also the jockey, it's also the rest of the team. If the team's performing right, you could double your money in 3 to 5 years, right? It's pretty typical. But make sure that any investment that you do from that standpoint, the way that my husband and I like to ask each other when we're investing in one of these syndications is the deal designed to go bad, or is the deal designed to go long? So I'm okay staying with a deal if it the market changes. Hey, we're going to be in it for another year. Okay, but we've included that in our initial setup of the deal, so we can go long, as opposed to we've seen over the last couple of years, just because of the interest rate increases and a lot of syndicators not having rate caps, we've seen a lot of those deals go bad. So if you are really willing to educate yourself and become a student of the market, and understand some of these concepts, and this could be a great, I don't want to call it a marketing strategy, but an investment strategy for you, by again, letting other people who are further down the road from a knowledge standpoint and from a team standpoint, bring those deals to you, raise funds with you and a lender, to be able to get your self-directed IRA invested. And there are a lot of opportunities right now, just because some of the, commercial asset classes, you're seeing some of those sellers kind of come down to reality a little bit, and start to make some interesting deals. So that's another thing that I would recommend, just because I know that a lot of people who have old 401ks, right, they come from corporate America, and they're used to looking at the numbers, and they're used to looking at spreadsheets. So take your time to get educated on that, because it is, again, you're launching a rocket ship as opposed to flying a paper airplane. And there, you just need a different team, and a team with a different skill level, and a team that actually has a back end team, right? Because after you buy a commercial asset, all the success or failure of that is what your team behind you, standing behind you on the ground, is actually doing for you. So that would be my thoughts on that. You've probably seen a lot of folks invest in some syndications as well. What do you think is some of the best takeaways from both the successes and the failures that you've seen?
Yeah, I thought that was the horse and the jockey is a great example. You can have a great deal, a great property. They buy it right, but if you got the wrong jockey, the wrong person operating and managing that, they can wreck it. And so what I've seen, the most successful syndicators, the ones that make money, and I'll tell you, the ones that make money on deals are the ones that have no problem raising money, because every one of those investors on the first deal is dying to get into the next one. They're telling all their friends about the next one. The ones that are always selling, and their investor relations team is always out there selling, are the ones that are either growing super fast, which is okay, or they're not keeping their current investors happy. And so, but what I would say is, I think team really, really matters. And I'll be honest, and some people may not love this, but where I've seen the biggest failures is new people. There's a lot of new syndicators that came into the market 3 or 4 years ago that are getting burnt right now, that are losing deals, that have this rate cap issue that you were talking about, Shenoah. They didn't get long-term fixed rate debt. They couldn't get the agency debt. They had rate caps that have now expired. And that property that cash flowed and looked great at a 3%, 3.5% rate looks terrible at 7 or 8 or 9. And maybe they got some mezz debt, or they've got some other debt on the property at 10, 11, 12%. They're getting crushed. And so if you're the investor in that, and this is what I mentioned a little bit earlier, is one way you can lose money in real estate, and this is whether your IRA is in it or just you individually investing, is debt. Debt is your number. Like, not getting the debt right in the deal is what can
Leverage
really
cuts
crush
both
you.
ways.
Yeah,
Leverage cuts both ways. And,
that's a great way to
leverage,
say
you
it.
can't
It can work
get
for
enough.
you. It can work
Yeah.
against you.
Yeah. You can't get enough debt when the market's going up. You can't get out of debt fast enough when the market's going down, right? So
Great
so
point.
you
I
have
like that.
to, for me personally, when the market goes like this, I'm probably in here. But when the
Hmm.
market goes like this, I'm probably in here, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm, as a risk manager, I'm following Warren Buffett's number one rule. So I'm not going to over leverage, right? So,
Hmm.
that's kind of my philosophy, as well. And,
Yeah.
good horse, good jockey, good team for sure. And I think
Yeah.
that's a requirement of just about anything that you do, but especially
Yeah.
when it comes to commercial investing, for sure.
Yeah, and I think one of the positives on that is it can be a little more passive, right? So, and I think a lot of people that, again, you're self-directing your IRA, it's a little more passive. You're not out hustling to find a deal. You're not calling a list of people, you're not even dealing with just buying a, ready to go type rental property that could be single family. And maybe you have a property manager that handles everything, but you're just going to like, let me sign some documents and wire some money. And that's
Yeah.
all I'm going to do. Now, I have a lot of clients that made a lot of money that way.
Well, and you
Trust me.
can learn by being part of those, right? So that if that's
True.
something
Yeah.
that you want to do, they say the best way to become an active syndicator is to start as a passive limited partner,
You have to start
putting
that way.
50,000 and watching how that deal goes.
Yeah.
And you'll find a lot of, I don't know if it's exponential growth, but you'll find a lot of growth when you are doing that. And I would say, one thing that you see, I think, from brand new people who have had a lot of success very early is sometimes you'll hear them use the G word, which just makes my skin and my hair just stand up like straight up, is they'll use the guarantee word. So I would say stay away from anyone who ever says to you, guaranteed, it's a lock, it's a no
Red
fail,
flag.
it's a
Red
no.
flag.
That is a flag and a half for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Go.
so,
Yeah.
um, so, for those of you guys are active, man, fastest way to get a deal, pre-foreclosure list, faster way to get ahead of the pre-foreclosure list, notice of substitute trustee. For those of you guys who want to not have those conversations with owners, but still want to get off-market deals, work with wholesalers, right? But again, do your due diligence.
Hmm.
And then for those of you guys who just want to, write a check, and that's not much marketing, right? But
Hmm.
networking is marketing, right?
It's
And
networking. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what the Directed IRA Summit is all about, is just
Hmm.
doing the networking, right? So that is marketing in a way. So if you're willing to, stand with a cocktail, in your hand and just talk to other people about real estate investing and see if there's a good match for their deal, for your, for your investment goals as well. So I'd
Hmm.
say those are five that kind of touch the bases from being active to being to
Hmm.
the networking or marketing you got to do to be kind of a passive real estate investor as you're using
Yeah.
some of these different tools.
Let me give one last one here as we conclude, because this is actually what I'm doing with my money now. This is the only one we didn't talk about, which is private money lending. Okay. You might want to take your IRA and lend it to another real estate investor. Maybe this is someone doing a rehab on a property. And so that's what I do with my account now. I've went from, getting the rental that was rehab, selling that. I've invested in other syndications right now. But what I've done most with my money over the last 3 or 4 years, I've done a lot of private money loans. Now, these are secured on the real estate. I might be in second position. There might be a hard money lender, maybe some seller financing in first, and I'm in second, a lot of times funding the rehab. Sometimes I'm in first, I'm funding the acquisition and the rehab, but I'm getting 12% interest in 2 points. And so, and that's like typically a 6-month loan. But it's again, you've got to analyze the deal. Okay. I'm going to look at that borrower on that deal. Who is that borrower? What track record do they have? Do they have other income outside of this? Just like the bank's going to do when the bank was going to lend them money or not, right? You need to be doing the same thing. But that's one other very common strategy I just threw out there is you may be good at being a private money lender. And to me, that one's like hitting singles or doubles. Like you don't make a lot of money because you're capped, right? They're not going to pay me more than 12% interest in 2 points, right? And so I'm not ever going to hit a home run. But if I'm secured on the property, I'm limited. I'm not doing the work. I'm just the bank. I get to play the bank role. So I can't lose money. So I got to be careful not to lose, but I can hit a lot of singles and doubles. And over time, which is you're using this IRA for a long wealth building tool, it can be a really powerful strategy. So,
So,
um,
the
yeah,
second lane, man, that's
you don't love that
I've seen
one?
a lot of those. That's like a full hard. I've seen them go really well, and I've seen them go really, really wrong.
Yeah,
So one thing that my preference in though if I'm in that position, especially if I'm behind like a property that they're buying subject to, I'd rather partner with them and lend. That way I've got a little bit more control, and that way I've got a little bit more visibility.
yeah,
And that way I feel like I'm propping up my downside for a loss. So
yeah,
I've got a little bit less exposure.
yeah.
So those are the ones that I would
Good.
say, let me get in as a partner on that deal. And would you talk about how that looks from doing it in a self-directed IRA when you're kind of partnering with your borrower,
Mm-hmm.
and some of the gotchas and how to avoid some of the gotchas, to make
Yeah.
sure that you don't run afoul with your self-directed IRA.
Great question. So, and of course, we talk about this at the Self-Directed IRA Summit, which, by the way, we're going to be in Texas, in Austin, Texas, April 25th, all day talking about how you can structure and do deals with a self-directed IRA. So, and I wrote the #1 book on this, the Self-Directed IRA Handbook, but you can do an LLC. And what Shenoah is talking about there, and that's very common. I've done this strategy too. Your IRA, and obviously we've helped tens of thousands of clients with this, but your IRA can invest in an LLC and basically be like the cash partner in the deal. You can have some other investor who's the work partner in the deal. They're doing the deal, they found the deal, they're going to manage the deal, but now you're on title effectively through an LLC. You've got ownership in the LLC through your IRA that owns the property. Now, that person that's the work partner in that deal cannot be you personally, right? I get a lot of real estate investors like, well, I found this deal, but my IRA is going to fund it and I'm going to take 50% personally because I want to make money today, and my IRA is going to get the other 50%. You can't do that. But Shenoah and I could do that. If Shenoah's like, well, I got a great deal. Matt, do you want to I need 250K to do this deal. Do you want to be the cash partner in this? I could say, sure, right? We're not disqualified people under the rules. There's some rules called prohibited transactions where you can't have your IRA invest with or share ownership between you, your spouse, your kids, your parents. But two other investors can come together on a deal. So Shenoah could get 50%, 20%, 60%, whatever we negotiate for a good deal and doing the work. And my IRA can come into the LLC as the cash partner. And now for my IRA, I am on the LLC that is on title. And sometimes you can kind of do the belt and suspenders. And you mentioned this, Shenoah, which is, and I could say, I want to lien on the property, because you might be the work partner that's the manager of the LLC, but I've also got cash in on this deal. I'm also throwing a lien in on the property, so that my cash is protected in the deal, and I'm making sure I'm getting paid out first.
And Matt, before we end today, let's tell them the #1 way to do marketing, which is just come to the summit,
Yeah,
meet
that's the
people with money,
easiest.
meet people with deals, all going to
We,
be together.
yeah,
Matt, I think you guys are going to provide some of the things that help with networking, so booze and food.
that's
So
right. That's right.
it just greases the skids, right?
Yeah, just make
So
it easy, a little
we're gonna
social
make it we're
lubricant.
gonna make it easy for you. So Matt, a big thank you for coming into Austin, Texas, to allow some of these networking magic to happen,
Yeah.
to help you in your marketing, helping you in your finding deals, and helping you in your placing money. So super looking forward to that.
Yeah, thanks so much. And I want everybody to be there at the Self-Directed IRA Summit. It's again April 25th in Austin, Texas. Shenoah's going to be there. I'm going to be there. We're going to be talking about this. A lot of other great guest speakers. And the other thing is, sorry, April 26th. Okay, 25th is the Friday. We do a little reception before April 26th, Saturday. But the other thing I want to say about why to go there is you can hear about what other people have done. There'll be a lot of our investors and our clients there that have $1 million accounts. Okay, some of them will be on the panels and talking about what they've done. And it's nice to just see what other people have done and go talk to them. Most of these people that are there like telling you their story and what they've done and what they've learned. It's been super empowering to many of them. So you can get to network with them. Also, if you have deals, it's a great place to network, to find other people because they're looking for deals. That's, again, and I started this with the #1 complaint people have. about a self-directed IRA, the thing they think is holding them back is they're not finding good deals. So if you're a real estate operator with deals, come meet and network these people. They're looking for deals. They got a self-directed IRA. They don't want to buy another mutual fund. They want to go do a real estate deal. All right, April 26th. Shenoah, thanks so much for being on. I'm looking forward to seeing you in Austin. And thanks, everyone.
Wonderful.